Stay.
Welcome to this very special edition of the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean as part of the first ever Guy at the Movies virtual film festival. You know, as many times as I say that, and having been the one that came up with the name, I still can't say it. Like, I'm always like, what is the Guy's virtual thing? Sean, how's it going?
It is great, and I have been enjoying the Guy at the Virtual Film Festival. Really wonderful. So thank you for bringing me in as a part of it.
Good start. Well, listen, today we're not alone. We brought in some backup that will hopefully keep us on track. So please welcome Ziana, the basic cinephile herself.
Hi.
Haley from Unlimited Reviews.
Hi.
And Melissa Byrne of Melissa Byrne. Who may or may not be frozen. We're working on technical issues, but we'll get her in. And I see that she might be adding herself down here. So we'll play with that on the back end here. But what we're going to do today is we're first going to start off chatting about movie news. And let's see, here we got Melissa. We don't. All right. So we are going to just start talking about movie news today, which is what we do as a podcast, but a little differently. We're going to kind of go around and see what people are thinking about in terms of the news that's been released this week. And then we have a conversation that we want to get into later on that's a little more topical that I think will be really beneficial. But before we move into some of the fun news that we have to recognize the fact that on Friday evening, we learned that Chadwick Boseman, star of films such as 42 and, of course, King T'Challa from Black Panther in the MCU, passed away after a 4-year battle with colon cancer. We wanted to take a moment to recognize his impact on cinema and also the silent battle that he waged without us knowing. I think what's really shocking to me is his career really flourished over the past 4 years, and to know that he was battling what he was battling is just absolutely incredible.
When you look at it, you sort of see the situation, and he already seemed like someone who is genuinely humble, both on and off the screen. And you see that now where he kept his suffering quiet. He didn't want people to worry or be concerned. It was something that was truly amazing on his part as a person. And as a performer, it's unbelievable because he was iconic before Black Panther. He was playing several African-American, idols in many different situations, in music, in sports, and in the legal system. And just to see all of those situations where he completely enveloped himself into those characters was truly wonderful, and he brought another generation to know about all those Black heroes, which was can't be underlooked.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I think I mentioned yesterday that just purely his physicality for some of the roles that he did as well, knowing that he was stage 3 cancer at that point, for Black Panther, etc. The work that he put in for that is amazing. Considering what he would have been going through at the time. And I think a lot of the tributes that have been paid by people who have worked with him, you can see the sort of person that he clearly was through the things that they've said. I think I shared on my stories Josh Gad's story about him, who worked with him. He was absolutely, torn to pieces. And said some absolutely, beautiful things about him. So he was clearly a very lovely individual, as well as extremely talented.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me the most was all of the personal tributes that were being paid to him by people who knew him, and it's like he was battling cancer. He was an incredible actor and so amazing in the roles that he had, and then he still managed to be a genuinely good person. So he left a lot of broken hearts in every aspect.
And we lost Melissa. You're exactly right. And I think one of the things that's most surprising, or I guess was most shocking, was how surprising it was when we found out the news. I don't know who I was saying it to, but it always hits so hard when you're not expecting an individual that's that young, right? He was 43 years old. I think that is really something that is just hard to comprehend.
I mean, I reacted the same way I reacted with Kobe. Someone sent me an article, and I very calmly said, "Oh, this is a fake article." Like, I did not even like come close to being shocked. I just like straight up didn't believe it. And I think about when a young actor dies, or an old actor, is that we say, oh, we have the memories of his work. With a young actor, it's more painful because who knows what else they could have done.
Yeah.
But with Chadwick Boseman, we don't just have the memories of his work. We have someone that has become probably one of the most famous, and unfortunately most likely the first Black superhero that's been on film, unless I'm thinking of something else. But for that alone, like he's never going to die in that respect. And he'll be like, the corniest thing to say, live on forever. But in this case, in the culture itself, he's really going to live on forever.
How about you, Melissa?
Can you guys hear me? I'm so sorry about this.
No, you're fine.
We can hear you.
I'm trying to speak. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. This keeps kicking me out, and I did not foresee these issues.
No worries.
But when I heard the news about Chadwick, I also thought it was a fake news article because it just seems so unbelievable. And I think for me, like when I say I didn't even know he was sick, it sounds so silly because it's like, why would I even know? I'm not in his close circle. But it's one of those things that just kind of like knocks you off your feet because I just remember seeing him in so many movies. First of all, he doesn't even look 43 years old. He just seems so young and lively, and to tell he's very passionate about his work and he's very charismatic, and he just never looked like he was going through such a battle like that. He did movie after movie, he did press tour after press tour all around the world. So it just really, I thought it was fake, and I was in shock. And that night I even like shed a few tears because I think about the hard work and motivation that he must have had to put aside his own issues and really put in good work out there for us. So that just really hit me really hard. And I just have nothing but prayers and thoughts going out to his family and his close circle.
Yeah, I think we all echo that as well. It's sad, but I think Sean put it well with, we do have some iconic roles from Chadwick Boseman, and I think what he has done for cinema, but also in particular for, young Black men growing up, I think is very impactful. And, former President Obama said it, I think the other day, to be, that talented, young, Black, and fighting that battle. And gifted. Yeah. It's just,
he was playing a superhero, but I think, it turns out like in real life, he is a superhero as well. I think that's like really like a testament to just keep on pursuing your passions and your purpose, even when you're fighting the worst and worst of battles. He'll forever be a inspiration in my community and also for our generation.
Yeah. And I think, for all the talk that we're going to get and all the, viewings of Black Panther that are going to be shown. I know ABC in the States is showing Black Panther tonight, and all that. I hope that they do focus on how he was a superhero off the screen as well. Melissa, you kind of just alluded to it a little bit, but he also did a ton of work in the community, and for charity. And I think that just, to be able to use your gifts in that way and your fame is a whole nother level of inspiration that we'll always remember with him.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm glad that we talked about that. I know we were all going back and forth about, how upset we were and wanting to talk about it, but let's move on and talk about some of the crazy movie news that we've gotten that's come out. And we're going to talk about reboots again. I know Haley is really ready to fight about that one. But let's start down with Sean. Sean, what's your news story for the week? What's the one that really grinds your gears or excites you? Or
so before the horrible news this weekend, there was further news that sort of is going to change the world quite a bit, and it's that Marvel movie, another Marvel movie, The Eternals, is no longer going to have the in front of its name. It is now just going to be Eternals, and it was something that I just thought that was a fake art. No, okay, so when like something like this really kind of like makes me wonder about the phoneticism in movies when they think about it. Do they look at it? A friend of mine said like, well, a lot of people were saying the Eternals, and I'm like, were they? But I guess like the Eternals kind of like really does jump a little bit. And it's one of those things where it was referenced in our pre-taping, where it's a lot like Facebook, where it's just, drop the. It's cleaner, like, that kind of situation from the social network. And I think it is kind of that. I think, when you're looking at these movies that are going to be marketed from kids, you don't want the kids saying more syllables. So, Eternals, like, let's go. And I think there's something interesting to it. I just, to tell you the truth, it was a slow news day, or excuse me, slow news week. So when I saw that one on there, I was like, okay, yeah, no, let's do the Eternals. And I kind of loved the idea of just like making it sleeker, making it a little bit more sharp. I have talked more than Marvel has talked about it right now, but let's hear what y'all have to say about the Eternals.
I mean, really, does it make a difference?
Oh, jeez. Ziana's like, I woke up for this shit.
I mean, I suppose the only thing you can say is, I suppose if you say the Eternals quickly, it kind of sounds like turtles. I mean, maybe that's why they changed it. I don't know.
It was a slow news week, not a snow news week. Don't put that out there. You know what? It's just ridiculous. Number one, I thought it was called Eternals all along. So when I saw that, I was like, okay. But it clearly like they know what they're doing marketing wise. So good story, Sean. Good story.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely here to bring the heat. Thank God you have me as a co-host. Holy.
All right, let's get into some more conversation. Haley, what do you got?
Well, I mean, I picked it up from you posting it earlier in the week, and it's just this whole reboot. It's just the weakest part, I feel, of cinema releases generally, and they annoy me. And I think I've said it numerous times now, like, do we really need another Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Like, how many times can we tell that story? I mean, like, maybe we should have a Muppets version of it or something, which might actually bring something new to the table, but I can't. It really irritates me.
How do we feel?
I mean, I will say that it's Melissa's going.
Sorry, the lag.
No, you good.
I think I'm of two minds about reboots. Because I agree. I think we should come up with more original stories. But then sometimes I find myself enjoying some reboots. For example, I was so against the idea of rebooting Jumanji just because I grew up with the original Jumanji, being obsessed with it, growing up watching it over and over, and I was against even touching that Robin Williams classic. But then I got a free screening of the reboot for the first movie, and I went to go see it because I was curious enough, but I didn't pay for it. It was free. And I went in there, sat in the theater, watched it, and I was sad to find out that I was enjoying myself. It was a fun time. But I also think that we do have to come up with more original ideas, and that goes to movies that are also doing like the whole gender swap thing.
Yeah.
Because I think you're kind of just recycling original work and trying to mesh it, because marketing wise you need the name so that people will recognize it and go out and buy a ticket. I understand that, like, money wise, but at the same time you're taking away original writing, especially for women and also people of color. Like, a lot of times, why can't we write something new? Like, for example, I'm going on a rant now. For example, they keep talking about, Idris Elba, why doesn't he do James Bond? He'll be the first Black James Bond. But it's like, wait, why can't he just have his own original franchise?
Right.
Why can't he have his own thing? I would love to see that. I would love to see a action, thriller, espionage, adventure franchise that's made for Idris.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's something that we see all the time in film, and I think about Ghostbusters Afterlife when they brought a whole female cast in, and it was met with number one. I didn't think it was a bad movie. It got crapped on, but I actually had fun with it. I mean, it's not like a modern Marvel or anything, but that's a prime example of like what you're saying. Write original content and stop trying to just take women or take people of color and put them in roles that have already been established. Let them establish their own, and we don't see that.
Like, I don't generally have too much of an issue with a reboot as such, but it's when you're having a reboot of a reboot of a reboot,
right.
You just get something like, we don't need 50 versions of the same film. It's not. It's just getting pointless.
Ziana, what about when they reboot Palm Springs? Are you going to be upset?
Oh God! I mean, who are they casting? I think with the reboots, if you're going to do it, you have to knock it out of the park. And so I think like Melissa's example of the Jumanji movies, those have been amazing. But a lot of the other reboots that have come out in the last couple of years, like Scoob was so rough, even during quarantine with nothing new to watch. Like that was horrible. And like last year, the new Men in Black, like they brought back a lot of beloved franchises, and it just seems like in the last couple of years a lot of them have fallen short of the original glory. So it's a lot of pressure. If you're going to bring back something that people love, like you have to make sure that you're doing it well.
I think some of the issues are that filmmakers, every single filmmaker is out there is like, I can tell my Men in Black movie. I can bring in my story. And it's like, no, that's Men in Black International, and that sucks. But I just like wonder, when it comes down to it, I have this like very very obvious but Buddhist saying about movies. When I find out about a remake, I just say, if it's good, it's good, which is basically just the dumbest weirdest saying to have. But I just sort of like go in there and just say like, well, if they're gonna make a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles movie, it's probably gonna suck, but it could be good. And so that's one of the things that I look at there. Is like, I don't have high expectations. But, just like, Jumanji or, something like Ocean's 11, which is technically a remake. And, there's a few others out there that, most of them do pretty much suck. But, there could be once in a while the diamond in the rough. However, Haley, I'm with you on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is it's going to suck. They already did the modern retelling, I think, twice already. And the point of it is that it's an old movie. Like that's the point of some of the horror in it. Like if you see the first one, them driving around in the truck is terrifying because it's just like how it's filmed and everything like that. But who knows? If it's good, it's good.
Yeah. And I think the other thing was, I think it was the Nutty Professor that you were saying is going to be rebooted.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine anyone doing that other than Eddie Murphy. It's just, I just don't think it'd work.
Well, Jerry Lewis did it first. But I'm gonna do that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But I think that like the prime example.
Oh,
what's that?
Some of us grew up with Eddie Murphy being the Nutty Professor, so it's like
right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like it's what we grew up with, right? And I don't know. I'm with you though. That's just going to be so weird because that's what we're going to compare it to. But I will say that like after seeing the Jerry Lewis one, after I started like Guide to the Movies, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Like the Eddie Murphy one was a departure. Yeah. I don't know. I'm usually fine with certain reboots, but what I don't like is like for instance, Luke's in the comments and he just brought up the Power Rangers, and that's something that was rebooted in 2017. And I would love to see that brought into more relevance because it played such a big role in my childhood. Like I was a big Power Rangers geek growing up. And I think that it's a story that could be told and could be really cool with modern effects and all that. But they also changed the story a lot and changed the backstory. And like, if you're going to reboot something, let's not forget where it came from. Don't just redo it, but I don't know. That may be a bad example, but they really kind of tore apart like the origins of Power Rangers, and now they're rebooting it again and going back to basics because it didn't work. The other one that's coming out that was just announced yesterday or Friday is they're writing a new Haunted Mansion movie for Disney. So the previous one again was Eddie Murphy, and I don't think it really connected much. But Disney, of course, is trying to really drive their rides into film franchises, as we found out with Pirates, and then of course Jungle Cruise coming up and all that. So, will you guys see a Haunted Mansion movie?
No.
If it's good, maybe for free.
I knew you were going to say that.
I only recognize the original Haunted Mansion with Jerry Lewis, and I don't recognize any other one.
Goodbye, Sean. All right, let's move on. Ziana, what do you got in terms of news stories or topics that you want to discuss?
Okay, so the news story I wanted to talk about was Olivia Wilde getting announced to direct an untitled, mysterious Marvel movie. And I'm so excited about that. Just from the perspective of representation, like to have a woman director behind a Marvel movie, I couldn't be more excited about it. So I rewatched Booksmart last night in honor of knowing that I was going to be talking about this topic, and just seeing like as her directorial debut, like how funny and smart that movie was. Yeah. I'm excited for her to bring her brand of humor and insert that into the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and it's strongly been hinted that she's going to be directing Spider-Woman, and she also tweeted, I guess, like a spider or something. So people are pretty much like, yeah, that's what it is.
I hope that's what it is.
Yeah. And this is for Sony's Sony. What's that? Sorry, go ahead. Oh, we lost her again.
Oh no.
Yeah, Melissa's having such technical difficulties. It's terrible. I feel bad. So this is for the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, which they call like Spunk or something.
We got to do something about that.
They got to do something about that. So we'll have that coming up. I want Beanie Feldstein in it. I want Beanie Feldstein in it somehow.
I want her in everything.
I know. Haley, did you see Booksmart?
No, I haven't. I haven't watched it yet. I do need to watch it. It's on my very long watch list of things to watch.
Highly recommend that. Highly recommend. All right, look, I'm going to bring Melissa back in real quick.
Hey,
hello,
guys. We love technology. Yay.
It's so much fun. Melissa, what are your thoughts on Olivia Wilde doing Spider-Woman?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what she does because I, too, loved Booksmart when it came out, and I think it's honestly underrated. I don't think enough people have seen that movie. I went in not really knowing what it was going to bring me, and when I watched it, I had a blast watching it. I think Beanie was great in it, and I think her name is Caitlin
Devers, right?
Devers, yeah, she's really great. I've seen her in Short Term 12 and also in Netflix's Unbelievable last year. Two great pieces of work, and Booksmart is another one that was really good and really well done. And because of that movie, I'm excited to see what she does with the Marvel movie. And more people need to go out and watch Booksmart. Watch it. I think it's on Hulu.
I agree. We were just telling Haley that she needs to watch it.
Yeah,
it's a good one. It didn't receive the mass appeal that I think it should have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's a really intelligent, well-produced, well-directed, well-acted film. So, Melissa, you're up on the stories.
Yes. So I'm excited about Raya and the Last Dragon. I think that's the title.
Yep.
It's going to be a new Disney animated movie. It's going to be starring... Okay, so I'm excited because I love animated films, and I also love adventure films. So it's combining two things that I love. And I also love the fact that it's going to be starring an Asian girl. And not only that, they're going to be casting an actual Asian girl for it. And that sounds like it's really typical and generic for them to do. But, we know a lot of times some things just do not connect with people who make these movies. So what a concept, casting an Asian girl to play an Asian role.
I know, right?
I'm excited about it.
Scarlett Johansson's pissed.
Oh my God, Scarlett Johansson must be pissed off. So must be Emma Stone, who played like a half Asian character, some Woody Allenby or
Aloha, right? Or
I think it was Aloha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Cameron Crowe. So, I'm excited for that. And when Kelly Marie Tran was in the Star Wars franchise, she was getting like really severely bullied on social media. So I'm kind of like, I'm wondering if this will bring her back to social media, because like she'll have to promote it. But again, like I'm worried about her being bullied again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just concerned about her well-being, I guess, because I think this will be another one that shines a lot of fame on her, because it's kind of groundbreaking again. But I'm excited to see what they do with it and what the story will be about. And again, I love dragons and adventure.
Do we have other Disney fans on the stream here?
I just think it's going to check so many boxes. I mean, this is like you just said, like the dragon and fantasy level. It's got a diversity angle, and for once, a diverse actress behind it, like you were saying, which is apparently a radical thing. And I really just truly am excited for what something like this can do, like in animation style. I mean, we've just seen 3 How to Train Your Dragon movies, which are very good and know how to like mess with the animation there. And so Pixar can hopefully up that imagination if they, if they feel that.
Yeah. Haley and Deanna.
For this one. I feel like they did such a good job with Coco and in representing the Mexican culture in that movie, and so I'm excited. I feel like Disney was much overdue for adding some diversity to its body of work, and doing so in a way that's not like Pocahontas from the 90s, like things that they used to be able to get away with that they would never be able to get away with now. So I'm excited to see what they're going to give us.
Yeah, I think it's it's nice to see Disney going to an original story as well, because there's been so many of the live action remakes just lately. Again, obviously not a fan of a reboot. So to see an original story brought out is a good step for them to go down and obviously actually start creating content that covers more diverse stories, and just creates content that is more representational across the board. I mean, I think the feedback maybe that they're getting for Mulan and the live action remake for that, maybe that's decided that they're going to go down a slightly different route in terms of more stories of Asian culture, that they're going to start looking at that side of things.
I will say the other day when Friday evening I spoke with Dan Lund as part of a panel. Dan Lund is a Walt Disney animation animator. He's been with them for a long time. Everything from I'm trying to think of the things he worked on. He worked on Mulan, the original Mulan. He worked on Hercules. He worked on Atlantis, the Lost Empire, Brother Bear, which is one of my favorites. And if you want to see a really funny clip from that interview, I bring up Brother Bear and it caught him off guard. He's like, I usually get asked is Frozen 3 coming out or something like that? He was like, no one ever talks about that. Did that even get released? I was like, oh boy, okay. But he said that they're working on, he's able to work from home, that he's working on a feature. And actually, as we're talking, I'm wondering if that's not Raya and the Last Dragon, because it's not a Pixar film. It's actually Walt Disney Animation, which changes that conversation a little bit, doesn't it, Sean?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but what he did say was that Disney is leaning into social issues and ready to tackle them, and that's so nice to hear.
Could it possibly be a sequel?
Could it possibly be what?
Could it possibly be a Zootopia sequel? Because I love Zootopia so much.
And Zootopia nailed it when it came to the discussions of Black Lives Matter and racial diversity. And
they made an animated movie about racial profiling, and it was so good.
So good, so good. And it's maybe not. Yeah, and maybe funny isn't the right way to say this, so please excuse my poor lack of vocabulary on a Sunday morning. But that most people probably didn't even pick up on that, because when I talk to people about Zootopia and how I think revolutionary it was in the story that it told, and then I point that out, people are like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I guess so."
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's why it's one of the best Disney movies. I think for me, it's in my top 3 or 5, because it's so layered. You have the buddy cop comedy, you have the crime thriller, and then you have something that's really being, exposed here about the racial profiling and the prejudice. Like, it's so multi-layered. It deserves more love. People, watch Utopia. Give me a sequel.
And it has an incredible song from Shakira that really is addicting.
Yes.
It's on my playlist in my car. It comes up every once in a while. So before we move into kind of our larger discussion, what I wanted to bring up was not really a news story, but more specifically, just theaters are reopening. So I guess it is a news story. And I finally went back to the theater in. I know Haley, you've been to the theater in the past couple of weeks, right? You guys have been open.
Yeah, so I went on Wednesday for just a small film, just some guy called Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Like, no big deal.
Film called Tenet.
Tenet.
But, there's been a lot of concern about them reopening and what that's going to look like, especially in the U.S., because it's not really well documented, but we're kind of a shit show. So proud to be here. But they, I felt comfortable when I was at the theater the other night, and I wasn't expecting that. There weren't a lot of people in the theater. They're keeping it down to a certain capacity. Everyone had a mask. There was hand sanitizer everywhere. I took my own hand sanitizer, and I was jokingly saying last night, I found myself just sitting there watching the movie, not doing anything, and then halfway through, I'd like put hand sanitizer on my hands just randomly. Like, I hadn't touched anything, but yeah, I oddly felt very comfortable, and I'm going to see Tenet on Monday, and I just booked the personal history of David Copperfield for Tuesday. So I'm so excited to be able to go back. Have any of you, other than Haley, been to theaters?
I've been to drive-ins, and I found out yesterday that Tenet is playing at the drive-in. So just because I'm a little bit I want to see Tenet, but I was not really sure about going inside the theater yet, just because I was reading, the latest articles about Corona, and it is something concerning, and I think we should all be taking it seriously. Obviously, I don't want to ever be complacent about it, so I think I may take the drive-in route to watch Tenet, even though, it's not ideal for a Christopher Nolan movie, but that way I get to see the movie and also get to be a little bit more comfortable about just, being in my car and not in an open room with other people. So I think I may see a drive-in style.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about you, Ziana?
I have been to the drive-in once, but I live in Las Vegas, and that was a mistake to go to the drive-in.
Why?
It was so hot in my car. No, it never...
Does your AC work?
Yeah, but I didn't want to run it for the whole hour and a half. That's kind of obnoxious. So I turned it on probably 4 or 5 different times to blast it. Then I brought a little portable fan, and I had ice packs with me, and I still was dying. It started out at 107, and then by the time I left, it was 101 in my car, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this again.
No, that's insane.
Yeah, so if I go see Tenet, it'll definitely be inside a theater, because I'm going to risk my life either way. I'd rather at least be a little bit cooled off. So
we've had the drive-in stuff here in the UK, but a couple of people that I know that have been, they're literally having to watch films through constant windscreen wiping because our weather here has been awful. So I don't know what would be worse.
Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, I mean, the cinemas here in the UK, you have to book in advance. So you've got your track and trace details and everything. You can't just turn up and book. So it means that you can at least look in advance before you go. We picked a showing that was deliberately really empty. There was five or six other people in the cinema when we went. If it helped, we've had a few days off work, so I was obviously able to go to a much quieter showing. Otherwise, I'd only have weekends which are busier, and I probably wouldn't have gone. So it's just I think it's finding what's comfortable for you, because I said that absolutely I would not go back, but seeing that there's fewer numbers and you can go to a showing that at least makes you feel a little bit more comfortable has definitely helped.
When you say trace details, is that in terms of who you've been around and stuff like that? Is that more organized in the UK than it is here? I know the answer to that. Yes, it probably is.
No, it's not. We basically, I think we went into partnership with Google and Apple, and we were going to produce this really amazing track and trace system, and then the government went, nah, actually we don't want to do that now, we're going to do something else, and then it just scrapped everything. So but it's so that if anyone that does go to the cinema does report with symptoms, that they can then trace exactly who was in that cinema at that time. So it means that obviously you got randomers just turning up and buying tickets, you've got no way of identifying who they are.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's so finicky, and I feel like that's going to be our reality for the foreseeable future until something happens. But I don't know. Who knows what fresh hell tomorrow will bring, you know? All right. So one of the, what Sean and I like to do every week when we are on our podcast is we talk about the movie news, and then we kind of focus on one big topic. And the topic that I was hoping to focus on this week, and why I asked the three of you to join, really is has already been discussed a little bit with Melissa and the stories that she had brought up in terms of diversity and representation. And I like to lean more towards the representation piece, because I think that's like the actionable item instead of the word diversity that I think has been commandeered with people saying like, look, we have a position, so we're good, we're diverse. And that's not at all what we need to do. But in particular, Ziana and I actually had a long conversation through, Instagram about this a couple weeks ago. I was struggling with representation of women in particular in this film festival. And I was very cognizant of it and very worried about it. Because what I learned through that is that our cinephile community that we all like to be a part of, and we're on Instagram and YouTube and wherever, is so, number one, heavily male, but number two, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about society in general. But it seems to be a larger challenge for women to break into our community and get showcased in our community. And, knowing Haley for the past year, chatting with Haley, and knowing Ziana for, I think, just as long, actually. And then Melissa being introduced to your awesome content through Ziana, I figured this would be a great conversation to talk about. And one other piece that I just want to throw in there is this was also kind of talked about yesterday during the Toxic Fandom panel, where Rachel from Rachel Reviews was sharing a lot of threats that she had received, and like literal death threats. And she showed a clip package that I'll link to in the notes down here that were very, it was a bunch of women that have careers in being film critics and such that were really, I mean, Haley, I think you were at the panel, the things that they have been heard, or that they have heard and that they have been told, and things said about their children and all that. It's just, I don't get that. And, meaning I don't get those types of reactions when I post the same type of opinion about Joker or whatever movie. And I probably go to assume that Sean doesn't as well. So I just want to have an open conversation about sort of why this is the reality that we're dealing with. And more specifically, that you three probably see a lot more than Sean and I do.
Well, I've been fortunate. I have not experienced any of those super negative feedbacks that you were just mentioning that Rachel's received. So that's disheartening, to say the least, to hear that. But so when I started getting into movie reviews, I knew obviously that like a lack of representation of women in the film industry is a problem, especially behind the camera. You don't see as many female directors, female writers, and it's not because they don't exist. It's because they're not getting the same amount of opportunities to put forth their work. There's like well documented that like women will have like a decent indie film as like their first directorial debut, and then usually where a male director would then get a chance to direct a higher budgeted film. With women, a lot of times it's met with this like, oh well, they can do indie, but can we really trust them with a bigger budget? And there's all these questions of like, are they really ready? And you don't see that as much with male directors. And so I got really into researching like, okay, how does this system affect women as a whole? Like not just directors, not just writers, not just actors. And And Meryl Streep has actually been super vocal about this, about the lack of female film critics, and how she says that affects the entire industry because, you know, if a movie is well received critically, then that affects that director's ability to be funded for the next project. You know, like that gets butts in seats, that affects their box office revenue. And so she was saying, like, this lack of female representation in criticism is actually one of the biggest problems in the film industry. And it's not talked about as much because, you know, usually you're so busy talking about the movies that you're not talking about the people who are talking about the movies.
Right. Huh.
Yeah. So I think I'm kind of like of two minds about this as well, because you had mentioned you were having like a hard time finding some female cinephiles, and for me, you know, I feel like I'm surrounded by them because I write for this website called The Young Folks, where it's actually owned and run by women, and then there's a lot of women writers. And then on film Twitter, I follow like a lot of a lot of female critics. But to your point, I remember having an exchange with someone on Instagram, and she told me, "Man, my boyfriend loves movies too." And then she went on to say, "I've never seen a girl movie buff." And for me to hear that, I'm like, "What?" That's a little bit like shocking for me to hear. Because I don't know, like I think it's about maybe diversifying who you follow, but again, it's not like opportunities are really thrown at me either. Like for me, I had to kind of like restart my Instagram so that I can put my own content on there, because, you know, I've sought out opportunities and they haven't been given to me. So I don't see why I can't start my own platform with, you know, starting out with my Facebook group and also my Instagram. Yeah. And then, you know, hopefully I'll expand from there. So I think we're definitely out there, but it's about the exposure. I think for you to have a seat at the table, you kind of, for a lot of us, you basically have to create your own table and like give yourself the seat. And then hopefully through the talent that you're showing and through the value that you're giving about films, maybe then other people will recognize the drive and the talent and the value that you have. And then hopefully, I mean, you know, like that comment from that girl saying that she's never met a girl movie buff kind of ignites a fire within me, and I feel like I really need to do better and put out more content and really just get this exposed, because there are so many girls out there who do love movies too. And you know, like Xenia, I haven't received negative feedback yet. And hopefully that doesn't come, but realistically, I'm sure, you know, I'll say something one day that pisses off someone. But yeah, I think it's about, we have to create our own platforms, but I also think that people need to probably put more effort into finding different types of voices, because I know for me, I do that. I don't want to have my timeline just having the same kind of people. I like to see different kinds of voices and opinions. So it's about making the effort to expose yourself and also creating your own platform.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Haley, you've had some of that negativity.
I mean, it's not been awful, like not anywhere near as what Rachel was talking about in the program yesterday. I think as opposed to sort of Melissa, you know, it's not obvious from my profile that I'm female. And that wasn't a conscious decision to do that. And I think I then got annoyed when people kept turning around going, "Oh, dude, brother, lad, no, you know, blah, 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 blah." And you're just like, I'm female, like, don't. And they're like, "Oh, what? Women don't like films." And you're like, sorry, have you never been to a cinema where there is at least one female in the
right?
Like, seriously? Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, I just didn't think that women were like really into movies." And you're like, well, if we're not into movies, and I don't wish to generalize because it's not just women that like these films, but why do things like Bridget Jones's Diary and rom-coms in general and Magic Mike and things like that exist? Clearly women like cinema. But it just, I don't know whether it's just because they were young, or I don't know. Sometimes the audience, you kind of go, I'm not sure whether it's just not really understanding, social discussions generally, and the fact that women are out there doing various things. We're not just stuck in the kitchen generally. But yeah, I think, I've tried to kind of say to people, I'm female, and not in I'm not on a feminist bandwagon or anything, but I'm trying to sort of say, no, I am female. This is a woman's point of view on this. And I think I got more of it when I did a sort of sci-fi, series of reviews not so long ago. And that was probably when it got worse. Funnily enough, doing Disney stuff at the moment, no one's commented. That's where I should be. Obviously, cuddly, lovely films that don't involve people shooting each other and getting beaten up. But the thing that was like, I spoke to Joe about it, obviously because I don't put my picture on anything, and he asked for my photo to promote this. So sent it out. He sent it, and literally it was within about 15 minutes of that photo going out. I got a message like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were a girl. Are you single?" And I was like,
"Oh my God,
I'm no girl." And I was like, I was in quite a sassy mood that day. So no, I'm a grown ass woman, and what I am beyond that is none of your damn business. So it was like, but yeah, I think it's just, you kind of get to the point where it's not been overly creepy or anything. I've not had any of that. It's not, but I know some people may have done. And I am aware of somebody in another group that I sort of chat with that, there was a slightly sexual exploitation issue that happened because she was one of the only girls in the group. And that sort of thing shouldn't be happening. And I don't think that that's necessarily contained just to people who are doing film reviews. It's a social media thing generally.
I just want to point out real quick before we go to Sean, in the comments, Tanya said, "I love your Disney post. Also, do they not read your name in your bio?"
Well, I added that in to try and make it more obvious, but yeah, no, they don't bother.
I was going to ask that, but I guess Haley could be a unisex name.
Yeah,
I'm only aware of one, like there's Haley Joel Osment, obviously, but I mean, I'd say I'm more aware of female Haleys than I am male Haleys. So,
Sean, what are your thoughts?
Well, as the straight white male of the group, I'll be taking the next 13 minutes of our time. No, it does, I'm unfortunately one of those people that are just like, name like girl cinephiles, there's not that many. And I'm with my girlfriend right now. And when I started dating her, some of her friends said, "So how's Sean going to think about Oscar season when you go to see all the movies?" And I was just like, yes. So it was one of those kind of compatible relationships. But I've more and more realized since I've started this Instagram page that there are a lot more, female cinephiles out there. And this is because I've sort of closed my bubble up. Like I went with my best bro to all the, all the movies and stuff like that. And we talked about how really cool they were. And we just high-fived when we left the theater. But it's started to expand my outlook a little bit more. I just think about when it's going to be there. I think it really does hold, and it really needs to hold on female directors. There needs to be more of them. There are thankfully more. There's none that are event directors. And when I say event directors, I mean it's an event to go to that movie. Chris Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, maybe a little bit Martin Scorsese, except now the events are going to be on the couch for the rest of his life. But I just think that, all of those are males. And that's part of the issue there is because I think about something like Hustlers, that movie. That was directed by a woman. And thank God it was. It was a movie about a stripper heist. I would have been terrified if that was directed by a male. It would have definitely been R for nudity. Everyone would have been sexualized, and they wouldn't have cared about the human parts of the characters. Instead, they covered a strip club in a realistic manner where it's all of them Altman style talking all the time. And, just like J-Lo being sexy without having to take her clothes off, but also being sexy because she had a certain amount of power. And I think that can draw more women into the cinemas. I think stuff like that. And that was because it's a woman director from a woman's perspective. I yield my time.
Yeah, I really like what Melissa said, and Sean, you just leaned into it a little bit too, with kind of expanding your bubble and being intentional about expanding your followers or who you follow, I should say. That's something that I realized back. I talked to the Cherry Picks, Meg from the Cherry Picks, back maybe a couple of months ago when I was doing quarantine conversations, and the Cherry Picks was born out of that idea of showcasing the female critics that are in the community that don't necessarily always get the attention that they should. And so from there, I've started trying to like really branch out. And the challenge that I still find and that I don't like is, for instance, with planning this film festival, the people that you see participating are the people that said yes, but there's also a ton of people that said no and that they wouldn't do it. So when you're talking about a quote unquote smaller population of individuals that are available. So if I'm talking about like, a limited number of female critics that I'm aware of, the number that said no were, still kind of percentage wise the same as, the men that said no. And so that becomes challenging because then, with an eye to representation, and again, Ziana can tell you this, we were talking about it, like 3 weeks ago, I was freaking out because I'm like, I have built my page on representation, whether that is on, whether that's race, whether that is, gender, whether that is, the sexual orientation, all of that. And my representation for this film festival was not looking good a couple weeks ago. And it really upset me. And actually, I think, Haley, did you ask me a while back? I feel like you asked me a while back, like, are you, for quarantine conversations, do you plan on having women on?
I don't think that was me.
I thought it was you. So someone brought that up and I was like, yes, like it's totally like, it's just, it's something that I think we all need to be cognizant of so that we're lifting up the entire community and not just those that we agree with or those that we interact with on a regular basis. So, it's challenging, but I think we need to take, and I'm saying like Sean and I, as the two white males here, I think we need to take some ownership over that and expand our bubbles. And I think everyone needs to do that. And that is that. No.
No, I don't know whether it's something that where people maybe are hiding behind, a different look to their page so that they're not outwardly female, maybe because of the fact that they feel safer doing that. Sure. Potentially it wouldn't necessarily be that you're missing that there are females out there doing it. There's just some people just don't want to necessarily put that out there because they feel safer in that respect.
Sure. Melissa, were you going to say something?
I think that's a good point because sometimes, I think that's a good point because, like for my page, I kind of put like my face out there, and it does cross my mind. Sometimes I kind of get like nervous about it because I think a lot of other pages, they kind of just stick to the reviews and such. But for me, I want to put myself out there.
Oh no! Right at a good time in a conversation.
Something good.
Oh geez. She'll probably pop back in like 2 seconds. That's usually how that happens. Yeah, technology's not been good. Oh, here we go. All right. Coming back in right about. It says device is not connected. That's not good. Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right. We're coming back to you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to put my face and my voice out there because why not? I may not always say the right thing for you to agree with me, but I think I deserve to still be a voice, and hopefully people can catch on to, expanding the conversation and your bubble, and not to only follow people that you would usually follow up with, but I think, I have something to offer, and I know there's plenty of other female critics or people in the in the minority groups have something to offer. Everybody has a voice, everybody has an opinion, and I think there's value from that. But it is sometimes nerve-wracking to kind of like put your opinions and your face out there. But again, like I can't really have somebody really tell me, I didn't know girls were movie buffs. and just me not do anything about it. So I will continue to, push out my content and also collaborate with other cinephiles because this is fun. Like, it's fun to talk about movies, and I think, talking about movies can also obviously teach us a lot about our world and other people and other cultures and other types of different things. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Melissa, I think that is a great place for us to kind of put a pin in it for the day as we're running up against time. I can't thank you enough for being here, all three of you. I do want to give you an opportunity to just share where people can find you and see some of your incredible content. So kind of on my screen, I'm going to go around. Melissa, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's at Melissa Berne. It's Berne. And I have, IGTV videos. I have movie polls and quizzes. I have my shenanigans that I do on my reels. And I'm going to be hopefully launching a YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Ziana.
I'm at The Basic Cinephile on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm on Twitter at The Basic Cineph, and then it cut off and there's number 1. But if you search The Basic Cinephile, you'll see me. And at thebasiccinephile.com.
And you will never know if it's her or her sister.
Yes, my sister is also a part of my account. We are not twins, but basically we are.
Haley.
So I'm just on Instagram as at Unlimited Reviews. Just generally posting reviews. I don't really do much other content, but I tend to do a lot of runs of specific types of stuff. So at the minute I'm in the middle of doing a Disney review run. But yeah, I've got an unlimited card for Cineworld here, so I'm go to the cinema as much as I can in and around that. So I try and post sort of new stuff as well as the runs that I do.
Awesome. Sean.
I am on Instagram at Math Teacher Movies, all one word. And I do reviews of old movies, reviews of new movies, and anything in between. I also do a Monologue Monday on Mondays, a What the Oscars Got Wrong Wednesday on Wednesdays, and a Final Shot Friday on Saturdays. But any way you look at it, it's just good time, good content, fun discussions. So follow on up.
Sean's the jokester. I once again want to thank everyone for being here. I'm Guy at the Movies. You can find me at Guy at the Movies or guyatthemovies.com. This is part of the first ever Guy at the Movies virtual film festival. So I thank you all for being a part of that and being open to the discussion. And as we end every week, wear your damn mask. All right. Thank you all. See you soon.